What's up everyone? Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Ebbs and I react on the videos that you guys recommend. So if you're enjoying this kind of content, please don't forget to give this a like, comment, and consider subscribing, or you can DM me and follow me on my Instagram and we can be friends. So Japan is one of my favorite country to react to. So I might as well react on 12 things not to do in Japan, because who knows, maybe one day I'm gonna go to Japan, right? So I might as well learn the etiquette of what not to do. Okay, don't want to make mistake, right? Okay, let's do it!
I won't lie, I didn't know a whole lot about Japan before I got here. I knew what Pikachu was, and I'd seen The Last Samurai about 3 times, and that was probably the extent of my knowledge. I actually did most of my reading about Japanese etiquette on the horrific 12-hour flight between London and Tokyo, and I've pretty much just winged it ever since. In hindsight, there are a lot of things I know now that I would have done well to comprehend before I got here.
First of all, I love his British accent. I can really tell he is from the UK because of his British accent.
So today I've taken 5 years of experience in the field and compiled it into this list of 12 things not to do in Japan. So when you're on your flight here, you needn't worry about reading about cultural etiquette. You can sit back, relax, and enjoy the in-flight entertainment with incredible titles to choose from, such as The Emoji Movie, Valerian and the City of a Thousand Disappointments, Ace Detective Sherlock Bones. And I think we can all agree, of those 3 movies, the most compelling would have to be Sherlock Bones, Ace Detective.
Oh.
Especially with that brilliant tagline, the world's first talking police dog on a mission impossible. Mission impossible. It doesn't really work, does it? At all.
I love his sense of humor too. Whoa!
So walking down the street whilst eating and drinking isn't illegal. You're not going to get shouted at and you're not going to get arrested by Ace Detective Sherlock Bones. But what you will get is the stare of disapproval. A lot of people don't know this one until you get here and never see anyone doing it. What you'll find is if someone wants to eat or drink something quickly outside, they'll buy at the convenience store and then eat it or drink it out the front. Same with vending machines. If they buy something from the vending machine, they'll drink it there and then next to the vending machine. The main reason is people are very conscious about keeping the streets clean here, and you don't want to ruin someone else's day by having them walk through your spilt coffee. That said, all you need to do to avoid the stare of disapproval is just stop and eat and drink whatever it is there and then. Maybe it's on a bench, maybe you're just standing at the side of the road, whatever. Just don't walk whilst eating and drinking and you'll be alright.
Well, that's quite reasonable. And you know what? If you are eating while you're walking, you won't be able to enjoy your food. So you would rather stop and quickly eat your food. You know, that way at least, you know, you will enjoy it. And you get to eat properly, right? Because sometimes, as if like, you know, the same with phone, you are walking or you're driving while you're on your phone. Sometimes I even see drivers, you know, eating while they're driving. And the same thing, you know, when you're walking while you're eating, you'll never know, you might hit you might get hit by the car, or you might, you know, suddenly crash in the post because you don't know where don't know where you're going. You're not really properly looking to what you're doing. You're not that aware of what's happening around you, right? So it can cause an accident as well. You'll never know, you might get chopped. So please don't do that. Okay, next.
3 things to point out here. Number 1, never put your chopsticks upright into the rice, as this is part of a ritual conducted at funerals when offering rice to the spirits of the deceased. Similarly, number 2, never pass things from chopstick to chopstick, because again, this is done during funerals to pass the bones of cremated relatives. So that kind of imagery doesn't go down well over dinner, as you'd expect. Probably best not to conjure up imagery surrounding death before you've even had your lunch. Oh, and thirdly, don't do the rubbing of the chopsticks. You know when you open wooden chopsticks, you like to do that to get rid of the splinters, and just because it's fun. Everyone loves doing that, right? But don't do it in Japan, because it's seen as rude to the owner, because you're basically saying, oh, your chopsticks are probably cheap, which, let's face it, they probably are. But in fact, they usually
They probably are. Excuse me. My God. Tip.
Probably the greatest thing about Japan ever, and the reason that I eat out several times a week, just because I save 20% automatically. In Japan, it's believed that customer service should always be exceptional, with staff giving 120% every time. 120%? 110%? 120% would be ridiculous. But it's not necessarily rude to tip someone, it just creates this awkward situation where the worker, the staff, would feel like you're assessing their performance and they could potentially lose face. So you might think you're being nice by giving someone a tip, but you're not. You're just creating an uncomfortable situation for the worker, and they'll probably just reject your tip outright. So don't be tempted to do it.
Well, with the tip, obviously, I feel shy to give tip if it's like, it's only a very small amount of money. Of course, I don't wanna offend as well the waitress or well, of course, yes. I don't know, it depends on the person. Obviously, if you are the worker, it'll be nice to get appreciated, in any way, even in a small tip. But obviously, if I am the one who, wants to give a tip and it's only a small amount of money, of course, I feel shy as well. Might be better not to just give altogether, to prevent those kind of awkward situations then. Okay.
There's a real emphasis on being mindful when you're using public transport in Japan that's often completely absent in many countries. Numerous of the times that I've been riding a train in the UK and someone nearby has been screaming at their partner down the phone, and I felt like I was part of the argument, like some kind of unpleasant 4D experience. But given Japan's density, it's especially important to be mindful when you're stuffed in a train alongside fellow commuters, many of whom are sleeping as well. With that in mind, don't ever talk on your phone on the train. That's a massive, no thing to do here. And even talking loudly is looked down upon. If you're on a local train or a subway train and you get a phone call, just ignore it until you get off. And if you're on a bullet train, you can go to the little compartment in between the carriages and take your call there.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so obviously, you have to be mindful when you are in a public transportation. But of course, in case of emergency, you have to take some calls, right? But yeah, that's reasonable.
I remember for the first few years that I lived here, whenever
cards.
someone handed me a business card, I was utterly terrified, because until then, business cards to me had always just been a bit of paper or a bit of card with some writing on. But in Japan, they are so much more. Once you've exchanged business cards, the trick is to imagine you've just been handed the lost treasure of El Salvador or something. First, study it meticulously, the name, the job position, the details. And then either put it in your business card holder or just put it on the desk if you're at a business meeting. Just put it on the table. Never play around with business cards or put them in your back pocket, because they're seen as a physical extension of the person themselves, and you don't want to stuff somebody's physical extension down your back pocket. If you're doing business in Japan, always carry business cards. You don't want to be that awkward foreigner who stood there writing out their name and number 50 times in 1 hour on the back of a tissue. And for the record, I am usually that awkward foreigner scribbling down my details, because I do forget to bring them, and subsequently I hate myself when it happens.
Yeah, but sometimes, with business cards, we tend to lose it, right? When we are being given a piece of paper, I think, for me, I could easily lose it. So I would rather just give my contact number, or maybe my Facebook or my email address. That way, it's more secured, and it's already there in your phone. You won't lose it. And with the business card, I think maybe it probably depends. I don't know. Depends if the business cards look so expensive. No. Kidding aside, obviously, it's just in my own opinion. I would rather exchange contact details, through email address or mobile phone than being given by a business card, because I tend to lose it. It's just a piece of paper. It could get lost. But if that's how important in Japan, then, well, something to remember, right?
if you've got a runny nose, standard procedure here is just to keep sniffing, or just to find a toilet or a broom cupboard to hide in. Blowing noses in public is pretty rude. Interestingly though, handkerchiefs are pretty popular here. Not in the way you would think though. People use them to wipe sweat off in the hot summer weather, or even more commonly to dry their hands in public toilets. Because surprisingly, many public toilets in Japan don't have any hand drying facilities, despite having space-age toilets that reside in the same room. It's quite a weird contrast that I don't quite understand.
But isn't it so annoying as well if you just keep sniffing and sniffing your keep sniffing your nose, like isn't it like, obviously that will put you in a difficult situation as well. I don't know, maybe I would rather go to the toilet and, you know, blow your nose there. I don't know, it's hard. It's probably depends on the person how you do it. But of course, yeah, the sounds of it is a bit awkward and offending.
Physical contact in Japan isn't really a thing. You'll bow a lot, you'll nod enthusiastically daily, but occasionally you might shake hands with someone if they're a good friend or a business client that you get on well with, but generally I avoid it unless someone makes the first move. And hugging in particular doesn't go down well. It's just met with expressions of awkwardness and despair. And also amongst couples, public displays of affection are phenomenally rare here, so don't be surprised if you get the stare of disapproval if you're kissing your partner frantically in the street. And I think that it should definitely be this.
That sound of music.
If you're the
so
sort of
scary.
person who feels the need to have a debate or an argument about things or throw your opinions out there constantly, people will find you obnoxious and dislikable and probably just avoid you. Embedded heavily within the culture is this idea of keeping harmony and avoiding conflict at all costs. And it's a lot easier to do that when people aren't at each other's throats, throwing around opinions. Sometimes it can be frustrating when people are just unwilling to speak their minds or give you a clear yes or no answer. I mean, one time, one of my colleagues when I was teaching, I asked him, do you have any pets? And he said to me, maybe my cat is dead. I was like, maybe your cat is dead? What does that mean? It is dead or is it not dead? It's not Schrodinger's cat, is it? It turned out the cat was definitely dead, but he was just the sort of person that always liked to use the word maybe and just not express certainty. But if there's one reason I've never seen a fight anywhere in Japan in the last 5 years, it's probably this reason. That people are a lot more careful about expressing their opinions and holding back what they really think.
But won't that be very confusing though if just they keep saying maybe rather than instead of saying yes or no sometimes, and then they say maybe? I mean, that'll be confusing, right?
Yeah, I couldn't be bothered to film that one. Everyone seems to know this one already anyway. When visiting someone's house or entering a public building like a school or going to a hot spring, you take off your shoes and switch to slippers before you go in. The easiest way of knowing if you have to change your shoes is there'll be a change in elevation in the floor. So when you go in, there'll be a little stair, and that's when you know. This is the one thing on the list where failing to stick to the rules will have noticeable results. A few years ago, a friend and I visited a public bathhouse in Kyoto, and we went in, and you're supposed to take your shoes off. For some reason he didn't. I don't know why. I don't think he noticed or saw. There was a little old woman sitting behind the entrance counter where you kind of pay, and when we walked in, she saw that he still had his shoes on, and she shot up with terrifying energy and ran over and grabbed him and took him to the front and was like, get your shoes off, get your shoes off. And that image has stayed burnt into my mind. This quiet little old woman suddenly becoming so alive and animated by this terrible event. And ever since then, I've never forgotten to take my shoes off when entering a building.
That's a good lesson. Well, I think, everyone should do that anyway. It's just right, I think, that wherever you go, you have to remove your shoes, I think it's a good manners. It's a good etiquette to respect someone's house or establish, or wherever you go. It's kind of like showing respect to the place.
For whatever reason, rubbish bins and trash cans are disturbingly rare in Japan. Outside of convenience stores, it can be a nightmare to find one. And the reason I put this on the list is because so many people, so many of you guys message me on Twitter saying, I'm in Tokyo and I can't find a bin, what should I do? I've wandered through Tokyo for up to 20 minutes sometimes just in search of a bin and can't find one. The streets though, despite that, are shockingly clean here because people, if they can't find a bin, they just take the rubbish home with them. It can feel like some kind of mini game sometimes, going in search for a bin, because when you do find a bin you feel a real sense of achievement. But despite that, don't be tempted to litter, just keep trying and you'll find a bin one day. Seems like a fairly obvious addition to the list, and yet in the UK we just cross the street whenever the hell we want, whenever there's an opening in traffic, as opposed to waiting for the green light, same as many countries. In Japan, however, people do not cross the road on a red light. It's incredibly rare, and it's one of the greatest ways of seeing this sense of order and obedience to the law that exists in Japan. If you stand at a roadside in Japan and there's no cars coming, you can't see any cars whatsoever, people still will not cross the road until it goes green. Over the years of the many friends I've had come to visit me here, this is the thing that shocks them the most. The idea of not crossing the street when there's no visible cars there. The idea of abiding by a rule that doesn't seem necessary. And yet for me personally, the main reason I abide by it is after a few years of being here, you don't want to stand out. You don't want to be this stereotypical rule-breaking foreigner. And as well as that, you don't want to run the risk of getting caught out by the police. So those are two things worth taking into consideration before you dash across the seemingly empty road. And the last one, don't worry about not knowing anything about Japanese etiquette when you come to Japan. As I said earlier in this video, there aren't going to be any real consequences to not following any of these things, apart from maybe the footwear one. That's quite scary. You don't want to get dragged off by an old woman. The reason I say don't worry too much is because I find a lot of people come here and they're very nervous and very anxious about following the etiquette they don't really comprehend. And that includes even me. When I came here, I didn't know anything. And I was constantly anxious and nervous that I was making mistakes. But really, as a foreigner in Japan, you get kind of a free pass to make mistakes. People are understanding and they're kind and they will let you off. So don't become too nervous about following all the rules. Do your best, but don't become a nervous wreck. So those are my 12 things not to do in Japan. But what have I missed out? Let us know in the comments section below. I've probably missed out. Don't ever be late. And don't enter a bath or a hot spring without having a shower first. Those are probably the other two key ones that I've missed out. And now they're on the list. So this is actually 14 things not to do in Japan. So bonus stuff there. It's Christmas, so you get extra content.
Happy Christmas. So is this Christmas?
Who is he?
They're happy you done. You and did wrong.
Oh my god. Obviously, you know, wherever we go, we have to respect the rules. And every country, you know, I'm sure they have their own rules, their own culture and tradition that we have to respect. So it's very important for us to research before we go and travel. I'm sure that Japanese are very kind and very nice people anyway. And I hope that one day I could go and visit Japan as well. And thank you so much for always supporting me. I know that I have some few Japanese viewers, and so I hope one day I could get to visit Japan. I'm looking forward to get to know more about Japan. And so thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to give this a like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you again next time on my next video. Thank you. Bye.